Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on the program Woman to Woman. I'm Adorable Adisuwa Sawage, and it is with pleasure that I come your way today. On Woman to Woman today, we're going to be looking at something that affects mostly women and children, and that is trafficking in women and, of course, in children. Since 2009, Nigeria has made a conscious effort to tackle human trafficking through collaborations with government agencies, yet the problem is still there. It has not abated yet, and we're wondering why, regardless of everything that has been put in place to do all of this, and even with the laws that we have in our country, Nigeria. Joining me to talk about this is a delectable woman, a woman who is quite experienced in this aspect of our problems in this country. She's Dame Julie Okadonli, OON, former director of NAPTIP, and she is also a legal practitioner, and so she's got everything on her fingertips, so to speak. A pleasure to have you join us today, madam.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Thank you. All right, quickly, we just want to ask a few questions on human trafficking, particularly women and children. Like I said before, since 2009, Nigeria has made conscious effort, putting laws in place, collaborating with security agencies, and yet this problem still exists. What are the challenges we're facing? What are the challenges of dealing with human trafficking, particularly women and children?
Wow. Human trafficking is a crime against humanity, like we all know, and it's not just restricted to women and children. The challenges women, especially women and children, face is because they are the most vulnerable group of persons in that category. But it applies to even men and boys as well. So we look at the challenges of mostly lack of education, lack of knowledge, especially concerning the women and children. Then we're also looking at a situation of forced prostitution, which is one of the main reasons for human trafficking. And of course, the young girls and the women are usually victims of forced prostitution. So that is a major challenge for the women when it comes to the crime of human trafficking.
So what are the things we should do? What are the indicators? What are the red flags and the indicators of knowing victims of human trafficking, particularly women and children? Because we're dealing with women and children now. I know where human trafficking involves even the male and the little boys, but let's look at the women now. Let's take a gender approach to looking at all of these problems. So what are the indicators? What are the red flags we should look out for?
There are so many indicators.
Okay.
The first one is more like a traditional kind of problem where young girls are solicited for house helps, to be made house helps in different cities and or even in different countries, because unfortunately it's so sad that our girls are being shipped out, like commodities to some countries, African countries, and to the Middle East to work as house helps. That all of these cases are pure cases of human trafficking for the purpose of domestic servitude and for forced prostitution. All of them who come back have the same story to tell you. They were made to work for like 18 hours. They were made to sleep with the men in the house, the family members, and so on and so forth. They were forced into prostitution at the end of the day. So yes, when you see signs, when you see advertisements for young girls, to come and work as house helps, whether within Nigeria or out of Nigeria, this is a very strong indicator, and this is a recipe for trafficking. We also have cases of scholarship opportunities, fake scholarship. That I put online, and then they tell you, we want girls between the ages of this and this. Of course, when you see all that is a strong indicator, because why are you asking for a specific age of girls?
Yes.
And with the jobs, when they're giving you job opportunities abroad, they tell you, oh, we are looking for this number of people, then they tell you the age range. Then you should view it with very serious caution.
All right, with all of those stories we get from returnees, those who survived the ordeal, so to speak, I want to look at this as an ordeal, because most times these victims are forced into doing what they do not want to do. Like you said, fake promises of scholarship, jobs, and all of that, only to get there, and then they are being forced into slavery, modern day slavery, turn them into sex toys, and all of that. We hear stories, we've seen them on air, we've heard, from the government and all of that. Yet, some parents will still want to push their children. Let's look at the laws we have against human trafficking and all. What do we have on ground to punish parents who force their children into all of this, regardless of what is happening or regardless of the ordeal they have to go through? What is in for parents who do this or sponsors?
Well, human trafficking is a crime. So whether it's a parent that is responsible or it is someone else that is responsible, it's a crime, and it's the same amount of punishment. But one thing that we also realize is that when families, especially close families, some families, are engaged in trafficking their family members, most of the time it's as a result of ignorance. That is because the trafficker is a close family member or a close family friend that they trust. And so they come to them with the story of, I'm going to give your daughter or your daughter's good jobs. They trust them. And then they later realize that it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And some of them, because they put the fear in them, they are scared to speak out. They threaten their lives, they threaten them. Some of them are even being owed, some of them are owing these people, And so they threaten them with, you have not even paid your debt, you have done this, you have done, So there are so many dimensions, related to human trafficking. Family members, but when family members are arrested, there's nothing like ignorance. Sometimes it is so obvious that they were extremely ignorant and they did not intend that their words be trafficked. So in cases like that, you counsel them. You understand? So there are different cases and they are treated, on a merit by merit basis, as the case may be. But there are so many factors that are responsible for human trafficking. But bottom line is, human trafficking is a crime, and whether it's perpetrated by a family member or not, it attracts the same kind of punishment or penalty.
Okay, let's extract the penalty and punishment now. Do you think that the punishment or penalty is, stringent enough? Because even with all of this, people will still do it. Punishment or no punishment, do you think the punishment is stiffer, or we should make it stiffer if what we have is not enough?
I know that the minimum, as the VAP Act indicates, is 5 years minimum. Depending on the kind of crime, kind of trafficking. But unfortunately, some of the judges still use their discretion. They don't follow that penalties very strictly. So you may have a judge, sentence someone to 5 years. You may have another one 10 years. You may have another one 25 years. And then you may have someone give 6 months or 1 year. The law, the VAP Act says, do not. There's no longer imposition of a fine.
Yes.
But some judges will still impose a fine. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of left at their discretion. So these are the things. But I would want to see the laws to be more strengthened. Where it's going to say 25 years minimum, no imposition of a fine, and the judges must adhere to it very strictly. If that is done, I believe it may help.
Now tell us your experience, your journey through NAFDAC for the number of years you stayed there. Just tell us your experience as a woman, looking at it now, looking at it using the woman-to-woman thing. As a woman, tell us your experience and the effect of trafficking in human.
Well, NAPTIP, you mean, not NAFDAC.
Oh, NAPTIP, sorry, NAPTIP, I mean.
Yeah, like Nigeria, we're still we're still developing when it comes to the gender card.
Yes.
As a woman, yeah, I had situations where my colleagues, in other agencies would want to attempt to intimidate me, even though I cannot be intimidated by anyone.
Okay.
Some of them do not have regards, for women. And then
That's
they
pathetic.
not treat you like they would treat the male colleagues, the male counterparts in other sister organizations. But of course, I never allowed that to happen to me.
That sounds like violence against the woman.
Yeah, I could sense that happening.
Okay.
For those women who are not strong, they may be intimidated, by their male colleagues in other organizations or agencies. Yes, so that discrimination is there. Sometimes subtly, sometimes obvious. So it's still there, and it's something that whoever is there has to really take charge of. Otherwise you won't be able to do your job.
Okay, you made a serious impact while you were at NAPTIP. I read a little bit about it, the conquest you made, and all of that. And I was like wondering, just like you said, we live in a patriarchal society where men don't really see women as equal. What kept you going, apart from you're not allowing anybody intimidate you? What else kept you going so that, let's encourage ourselves, encourage me and other women who are watching?
I'm very passionate about the fight against human trafficking, sexual and gender-based violence, and all forms of human rights abuses. So first of all, I think that was my driving force.
Okay.
The fact that I'm a lawyer as well, and the fact that I just love to see justice and ensure that justice is done. So I think for me, that was the most important thing that just made me focused, and just carried on with my job like there was nothing, that there were no obstacles around me.
Fantastic. I hope and pray that a lot of women would look at this and then find their foot in whatever business or whatever organization they find themselves. All right. Now let's look at the effect of human trafficking in our society.
Well, human trafficking has done a lot of damage in our society and all over the world, because there are so many, there are different types of dimensions, now as regards human trafficking, and the traffickers are becoming more violent.
And more
they are
daring too.
They are becoming more technology savvy. And so it has become a very damaging crime. We have organ harvesting. We have trafficking for the purpose of organ harvesting. Now a lot of organs are being ripped out of human beings to be sold in the black market. We have human trafficking for the purpose of forced prostitution, where young girls and women are forced to sleep with 10, 20 men every day, and the returns are given to them. We have human trafficking for the purpose of domestic servitude, where young girls and women are made to work for 18, 24 hours. And what that does for the society or for the country is that we have a lot of women now who are dying from diseases like HIV/AIDS. We have women that are sick, who have tuberculosis, hepatitis A, B, and C. So we are looking at diseases. We are looking at stigmatization. We are looking at mental health diseases, because some of them become so traumatized by this. And they develop mental health diseases as well. We're even looking at death. We are looking at forced abortions. So it's a horrible crime that has a devastating effect. We are looking at the human capital development, depletion, total depletion of the human capital development. Where our youngest, our brightest and best, are made to go through this traumatic and devastating experience. So you can check that out when you have young girls from as young as even 10 to 30, taken away, abused and traumatized, where they should be at the peak of their careers. So you can imagine that level of age group taken away. I mean, it has a very huge effect on this country.
So what's the way forward now? What do you suggest women do, particularly those who are still very eager to traffic their children, or those who claim to be ignorant? Because as it stands today in Nigeria, I don't think anybody can claim ignorance of the fact that they do not know what their wards or their children have been taken away from them to go and do whatever country they want to take them to. What's the way forward? What do we do with these women? What kind of education do we give them? What kind of enlightenment do you think they should get?
Well, I'll say the first thing that I will advise before I talk about the parents. The first thing I will advise the government to do is to ensure there is free and compulsory education at the basic level. First of all, this will keep all children in school to at least the basic level, where they will get some form of education and knowledge and understand what human trafficking is, the indicators of human trafficking, and how to avoid it, being trafficked. That's the first thing, the starters. And then, of course, the women in the local communities, because this is where the rural women, they are the ones that are usually very ignorant, and they are taking advantage of. Their ignorance is taken advantage of. And such women are given like small scale acquisition programs and soft loans or grants to engage in petty businesses that would make them keep these girls at home and take care of their immediate family. Human trafficking is real, and there's ignorance is also real in still so many communities. And like I keep saying, the fight against human trafficking is not a fight that involves only the government. The fight against human trafficking involves the local government, the state government, the community leaders, the faith-based organizations, the private organizations, corporate organizations, the media, you and I. The government cannot do it alone. The government cannot go to every community alone. So yes, it is possible that some people have not heard of human trafficking. They do not know what the indicators are. They do not know what human trafficking is. So they need to be educated. And everyone has a role to play in educating their community members about human trafficking to ensure that, we reduce it to the barest minimum.
Okay, well, we're hoping that will come soon. All right, this is where I'm going to ask you this other question, using a gender-based approach to curbing or eradicating human trafficking. I asked you that question a while ago. Now I'm asking you again. What should we do as women? What conscious efforts should we do? Because however you want to look at it, you cannot take away a mother's love from the child. So as women, we have quite a number of NGOs that claim to be standing in for the women and the children, doing stuff for the women and the children. But somehow, some of us do not believe in some of these NGOs because, we've argued it somewhere that they are all set up for money-making ventures. So as women, what conscious effort should we put in place? Should we create more shelters for these children and women, stay to take care of them? What are we going to do? Like you said, government cannot do this alone. Local government, religious leaders, market women, you name it. In every area where we find women, and of course we're everywhere. What is that conscious effort that we should do?
For me, as women, the conscious effort that we should make first, starting with ourselves, is not to employ girls that are below 18 years of age.
Okay.
A lot of women are very, very involved in human trafficking, knowingly or unknowingly. When you engage a girl that is below 18 as your house help, that is trafficking. Okay. You should not engage any girl below 18 years of age as a house help in your house. Because what happens is that we are aiding and abetting traffickers. The traffickers go to the communities, and they take these very young girls from as young as 9. If you go to churches, you go to organizations, you go to functions, you will see very little girls as house helps carrying the children of their madams. It's very common. As women, the conscious effort we should make is to stop using young girls below the age of 18 as house helps, because we are trafficking them. These girls are trafficked from various communities, and the traffickers who bring them from various communities are the ones that are collecting their salaries. We should stop paying salaries to third parties. Open an account for these girls and pay their salaries directly into their accounts. So that is what we as women should consciously do to our fellow young girls and women.
Some may
And
not
of
be.
course,
Go ahead,
I
please.
beg your pardon?
No, go ahead, please.
I said, and of course, we need to continue to raise awareness, because awareness and sensitization is the key, the number one key to the fight against human trafficking. No more, no less.
No less. Thank you. Unfortunately, most women do not see this as trafficking. When you bring girls from other local communities, regardless of where, as trafficking, because they believe that trafficking has to do with taking that child out of a country.
Well, there's internal and there's external trafficking. So when you take an underage girl as your house help, you are trafficking. And you're aiding and abetting trafficking, because whoever has given the girls to you is obviously trafficking those girls and enriching himself or herself. They call themselves agents. But they are traffickers. And they're simply enriching themselves, and you're helping them to enrich themselves by engaging in such practices.
All right, thank you so much. You have educated us quite a lot today, and I'm so glad you came on air to talk about this, because most of us women are the cause of our problems. We have this PhD syndrome, and when you're talking to a woman, trying to tell the woman the right thing to do, they see it as you being jealous of that woman. Thank you so much, Dame Julie Okadonli, OON, a lawyer, and of course, former DG of NAPTIP, for finding time to be with us today on the program, Woman to Woman. Thank you, madam.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, people, you've heard it all. If you are involved in such a thing, just know that you are aiding and abating trafficking. True. When you go to most of our churches today, you see little girls carrying little babies, and these girls are poorly dressed, and then they are not taken good care of. Some madams go to the point of maltreating these children so much. They treat their dogs better than they treat these children. A word they say is enough for the wise. Thank you for being part of Woman to Woman today. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.